Hello, and welcome to another Learning is Change CarCast. My name is Ben Wilkoff, and today I would like to tackle a problem that is rather bigger than the ones I might tackle while speaking to you, while driving and keeping my eyes front and hands on the wheel so I can stay safe. But it's something that has become quite important to me in order to think about how we as educators, teachers, and learners have a huge impact on the world of work in the way in which we work with kids and work with adults and encourage and advocate for. And so I want to lay it out a little bit, thinking about what the problem is, what the root causes might be, and any solutions we might be able to come up with. So the problem is this. In the industries of computer science and of engineering, there are a number of populations that are severely underrepresented. Specifically women and people of color. The populations in those industries do not match up with the general population of the United States or even of the world. And so when we look at tracing that back a little bit, we look at the fact that the applicant pools for those industries are not representative of the general population. When we look back further, people are not being awarded higher ed degrees, master's degrees, PhDs in those areas. Women and people of color are not being awarded those in the same percentages as their population. And we look back and see that, well, not as many people in those populations are starting those degrees, are attempting those degrees. You look back further, and in high school, not as many kids of color and women have access to the types of AP courses, AP Computer Science, Calculus, those upper level math classes that are really about the critical thinking skills that you need to have coding as an exploit and things like that. So kids don't have the access. Going back all the way to middle school, a lot of what we do is actually disincentivizing kids from getting access to those courses. Really looking at remediation or at really sort of almost systematically, and maybe not even almost, just systematically making a path for specifically white males to have access to engineering and to coding and really all of the sort of STEM disciplines. And so that to me is kind of a big problem. It's a really big issue for the way in which we teach girls, the way in which we teach underserved populations, and how do we do this better? So anytime I'm trying to solve a problem, I always try and look at root causes. And although we've traced back the fact that there are a number of issues along the path, that's still not the root cause. I see the root causes of this lack of access, and I do see that as a really big sort of problem. The root causes for me are about the supports that kids receive in middle school and high school. So not having an advocate, not having someone to support them going through the perhaps more rigorous academics. I see a lack of access, the root cause, a lack of access for the devices. When a student doesn't have access to the internet at home, when they don't have a device that they can program on or learn more about something that they are passionate about, then they don't have the ability to accelerate. They don't have the ability to sort of follow that passion. And then the third root cause that I see is actually around really just the curriculum. When you aren't being challenged with the right skill sets or with the right, problem sets even, then you're not going to be able to achieve the same things that your counterparts are able to achieve because they have access to more rigorous curriculum or access to the types of projects the types of classes that are going to provide access to that next level when you're looking at it from middle school to high school to college, and then really college to career. And obviously there are some shortcuts in there, but so I see those as kind of the root causes of this. So then what do we do about the solutions? And so as I keep on thinking about this, I really believe that we need to have 3 core strategies. Much like there are sort of 3 root causes, what are the 3 core strategies that are going to allow for students of color and women to have access to these career pathways? And I see the core strategy, the first one, as a relationship strategy. Students need to be supported in their academic career. They need to feel support from their peers. They need to feel support from teachers and educators, and they need to feel support from the world of work. They need to see a connection between what they're doing in school and what's going on out in the workplace. And so I see this relationship strategy as essential, and we need to be able to support students with a peer group that really is as passionate as they are about engineering or about computer programming, about making apps, whatever it is. They need to feel the support of that peer group in a community. Most likely it's an online community, but also that face-to-face component of other kids in their school in very similar situations where they see, oh, there's another kid who's going through these exact same struggles, and I want to be supported by and with those other kids. The second type of that support, that relationship support, is academic support. They need some advocacy. They need almost a counselor, an academic counselor that will help usher them through the process. I mean, it's quite the pathway, right? So seeing the value in that, we need to be able to construct cohorts of students that can be supported by an educator who understands the curriculum, who understands what is this pathway and how do I navigate it. And then they need to have that support from a person who is already in the workforce. Someone, hopefully, who is a woman or a person of color who is already a programmer, who is working on the next great thing within the industry, and they see this is where I could be. They see that the ability to make that leap from wherever they are to the world of work in a way that brings about success. And so by having those 3 core groups, those 3 supporting structures of peers, of teachers or educators, and of industry professionals, then they will see that pathway as viable, as something that they can do. And I think sort of a subset of why those industry professionals would want to do this, other than just for sort of purely altruistic reasons, is that they would also form a community, forming a network of folks who are not only passionate about their work in computer science, but who are passionate about the next generation of computer scientists and the ability to actually create that path for them. So they would get that networking connection to all of these other passionate individuals, and they would not otherwise have. And so that becomes really valuable to them sort of over time as a networking opportunity. So that's sort of the first core strategy, right? The relationship strategy. The second strategy that I see is really about the curriculum. So while we might not initially be able to totally redo who has access to AP Calculus or AP Computer Science, what we can do is break down the individual skill sets and disciplines that industry says, these are the ones that we need to see in order to have an internship, in order to get a career within these fields. By coming to folks like Google or Cisco or somebody else, where those individual companies, the whole industry, could identify these competencies that students could achieve. And what we could do as a way of sort of substituting the rigorous curriculum that might happen in an AP class is we could actually provide curriculum that supports those individual skill sets and create a micro-credentialing system that students would have access to, that they could go through and earn these micro-credentials, these badges that would say, I have evidence that shows that I have this skill, and they could sort of collect them over time, not only for themselves, but within their cohort. So they could do group-based micro-credentials where they're coding with a partner or something like that, and they're really striving to have these skill sets that you would need in the workplace. And by doing that, we would support them in 3 different ways. So the first is that the K through 12 system could respect those micro-credentials and say, you have earned credit for these individual credentials, right? So they could get class credit for their exploits. The university system could respect these micro-credentials, these badges, as a competency-based way of saying they are ready for the next level of courses. They are ready to go into this major of computer science or of engineering. And then we would also see that the industry would respect these. So they would essentially, put their stamp on it and say, this is something that we see value in, and they would endorse those micro-credentials, saying that anyone who has these has a leg up in our internship program, in some of the other programs that we already have set up that help figure out who the next generation of learners or of leaders in our company and our industry are going to be. And so that, to me, is sort of that second core strategy. So we have the relationship strategy, and then we have the curriculum strategy that's really bridging the K-12 system, university system, and the industry. And then the last core strategy that we have to figure out, and then we have to put in place, is a device strategy, a connection strategy. So the real issue, and we kind of talked about it in the root cause area, is that you have to have that 24-hour-a-day access to that curriculum, to your peer support, your academic support, your industry support. You have to have those, and the only way to do that is with a connected device. So whether it's through tablets or it's through Chromebook-like devices, if we give students access to those devices and the curriculum and the supports all together, then they will be able to achieve, then they will feel that connection to the work that they are doing in their academic life and to the world of work. And so what's great about that is you see these students actually using this. And one of the sort of byproducts of this that I'm really interested in is if you provide these devices to students, it's not just them, but it's their whole family that can receive that benefit. So what I'd like to see is not only the connected device, but actually connecting the entire household. Because there are going to be inevitably other kids in the household who will then want to take up the mantle of this career pathway. The parents will have that ability to connect with those other support structures, with the industry support, with the academic support, and they'll be able to check in. Because obviously we want to involve the parents. We want them to become advocates as well for their child. And so by connecting the whole family, then you have that next level of support, and that you have an understanding of what this is and what the possibilities are. So I see that as sort of the 3 core strategies. We have our device or connection strategy. We have our strategy for looking at the curriculum, the access component to the rigorous curriculum that they need, the skill sets that they'll need, and then the relationships that are absolutely essential to making this work. And so I see that working when you start in middle school. If you have all 3 of those things, and you see this longitudinal pathway where people are advocating for you throughout this program, and you go all the way up through, and you're actually receiving an internship, or you're going into the industry out of college. You've made this this pathway real for kids who didn't see this as a viable way of going. And so, to me, that's kind of where I go, but I wonder what other thoughts you might have. Is this something that we could do? Is this something that we could approach? And does it help solve the problem as we outlined it at the beginning? Does it solve the problem of these underrepresented populations going into engineering, into these STEM industries? because my hope is that it does. My hope is that that is something that that you would be able to say, yes, we could tackle, and I can tackle this part, and I can tackle this part, and, you know, being a part of it. So if you have any other thoughts, please do leave a comment, and I look forward to having this conversation with you.